love to talk to somebody about this in detail. You've got the Meals on Wheels folks. You've got
Rocky is fully invested.
the Rocky Mountain Council. That there's probably 3 or 4 organizations in town that touch a large group of exactly those kinds of people. So I think that the question of how do we find the people to talk to isn't as complicated as how do we get the messaging just right. And it sounds like we've got people that have already gone a great length of solving that problem for us.
I think Townsend's just right or something like that. My opinion.
No, I agree with you.
To your point is, how do we, that move over opportunity, we just don't have it, we haven't sold it right, we haven't developed it right, and waiting for somebody from Bozeman to come in and do it for us, we're gonna be waiting a long time. Yeah.
This is, okay, have you got any examples of somebody who has done this on, I'm going to terrifyingly say a larger scale? We've been focusing on senior living because honestly, it's a very easily defined segment. So how do I shift that from senior living to workforce opportunity where we're bringing people in the range of modest entry-level pricing to mid-level management type pricing where they're earning somewhere between 35 and 65 grand a year.
Yeah, so there's a community in Vermont that you might, there's actually a handful of communities that have kind of a more community-based approach. So Cobb Hill, it's called a co-housing, so it might not be, this is Vermont, and Vermont co-op laws are very different. They have 23, now they're not senior focused, but they are community focused in the sense that they have 23 households, 50 people that span 70 years between the youngest and oldest. So they're multi-generational. They have 3 apartments, 6 duplexes, 8 single homes, 270 acres of forest, pasture, and agricultural soils, 12 community meetings and 12 community work days annually. So they have committees and they all come together and work different components of it. They have wood, Holstein cows, they make cheese, vegetables, and they do all sorts of stuff, right?
So it's a commune.
in a way.
Imagine that.
Yeah, in a way, that's when it shows that multi-generational, and we have hundreds of these. Now, there are some in Nebraska that are more senior focused. My great-grandmother lived in one of these before she passed. At her, I think she was 98 when we finally convinced her that the farm could, like, it's time, Grandma. It was more on the parcel of the farm, not the big farm. But she moved in, and hers was exactly what you said, right? So she was a very active woman still at 98, but she did need somebody to help her take care of her medicine. So we put her in more of an active living one, but they had all those layers that you were just talking about, all in that component.
The one that worries us right now is, what is a brand new single person at the school? They can't find a place to rent, they can't find some place to
Oh,
own.
yeah, we get it.
I mean, to me, it's kind of at the beginning as the end, we just have nothing.
I don't want to detract from Doug much, but we've got people ranging from teachers who can't find housing to students who are homeless.
There's
Exactly.
80 some odd kids in Broadwater County School District that are homeless right now. And
That's-
it's talking, it's, yeah.
Let's give Doug a chance.
So Brian and I and the mayor were talking, we got this mills that opened up in White Sulphur in less than a year. We could see an influx of 100+ people needing a place to live in Townsend. We got nowhere to go.
It's gonna make things
This could
worse.
be immediate. This isn't a 5-year plan, it's a 1-year, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And White Sulphur's, I think, in worse shape than we are.
They are, we're having some
So-
conversations.
There's that immediate need, or they're gonna go out and wherever, but Townsend's gonna get a lot of attraction about where are they gonna live. And they'll pay big bucks, they're gonna pay $100,000 a year.
With
So now the market's gonna potentially get driven back up because of that. Because of that income from those type of people that are willing to pay. So if I'm a landlord or homeowner, I'm gonna rent my place out, I'm gonna go back to $2,000 a month.
What's the
15
projected life of that line?
30,
Yeah, I mean, they claim it's 25, but because of the second and third phase, it's probably at
I
least
thought it was
35 to
30.
40.
But there, you're not wrong. It's not infinite.
Right.
Correct, and I will say that White Sulphur is very well aware of that, not looking at
Yeah, I've heard them talk about it, they are.
Yeah.
It scares them half to death.
Well, you don't
It should.
really see what you saw in Sydney. Sydney sees it all the time. Our friend Leslie, she is constantly battling, need housing, no, like all housing is available. Need it, dropping it off. So you don't want to create
Potential
that.
employers moving,
Here,
there was a lot of jobs besides that, possibly.
Yeah.
And I just talked about that. So you had another 50 to 100 on top of that.
So, one, guys, if you haven't noticed, Lindsay's kind of newer on the
She's
idea of
just as
facilitating
nervous. Sorry.
a little bit, so I am helping her out on this side, so it's a little bit of a training happening at the same time. So what we were trying to capture though is really two distinctive needs, maybe even three. So you have workforce from outside influences, workforce needs. So that would be something I would add to that list of that, Lindsay, is you have that outside influence, but then you have your essential workers, school teachers, doctors, hospitals, those. The homeless kids, that is heartbreaking. That is in every community we are visiting now, that is coming up all across the state. Eureka has over 100. It's
What is
insane.
Eureka?
I know,
That's so sad.
right? Yeah, it's just so sad. And then you have seniors.
Yeah.
So in those three areas,
We're just
just the school district.
it's heartbreaking to see.
We actually just made a donation to the homeless lady at the school, but their budget only allows for $1,900 to go toward that, those kids and their needs and helping them.
How many did you say again?
There's 80 children.
80 and $1,900 with the budget.
It goes a long way.
Buys them all two
Yeah,
pairs.
pretty much. But, and that's just like basic winter coats, boots, gloves, hat, like, they can't even cover those types of things.
So there's this tough one. I
That
mean, these
is-
are the ones that just, but how do
Yeah.
we solve that? I mean, part of it is you have to have incremental
Yes.
improvement. And hopefully that holds 5% every couple of years.
Maybe this is an opportunity where if you created, so based on, I'm gonna throw some ideas at you guys. Ideas only. Do you wanna look at a multi-generational housing co-op? And in that sense, you would be looking at needing to recruit and attract seniors, workers, possibly essential workers, and have a couple of those youth if you can get them around the table, right? Maybe the opportunity in a multi-generational co-op is that to solve for the youth homelessness, is that there is actually a small hospice type facility tied to it that the co-op helps support, right? Sense of community, return and concern for community is one of our principles. We want to also look at that. You also could just do a senior housing continuum care one, right? You could focus on the attention there. The school teachers in the workforce, that could actually be an employee-owned or employer-owned co-op where they actually build the rentals and then rent them back to workforce. Their return, though, is never cash. It is the units that they put in for it on those models. I mean, they could eventually maybe get cash returns on it, but usually it is, their return is that they've invested in housing for their workforce. That then pays rent,
Right.
that keeps it going.
It doesn't cost them anything, but you lose that, this usability of that capital.
Does the school district own 2 houses?
I have no idea what the school district owns for houses. I was just talking to Holly. Her daughter works there too,
I
so.
thought so.
Curtis house and then one on.
Yeah. Yeah. And over in White Sulphur, I think they bought 2, and they're bringing in overseas teachers to try to solve some of their problems.
Wow. So I have a question.
Yeah.
And so there's $400,000 that can be used to help buy a home
Has
for
to be a
somebody,
purchase, yes.
a purchase. So because there's houses for sale in Townsend, and a lot of there are people, I currently have 4 buyers that are looking for a house, but they're FHA buyers.
Still works.
Yep, so, but some of these houses can't get through FHA appraisal. Is there any way where that $400,000, because a lot of these houses that are owned by people that have since passed away and their families don't have the estates to put the fixes into these houses where then you get the bigger people that come in and develop them. Is there a way that some of those funds could be put towards making improvements on the homes to make them FHA qualifiable versus,
I can see so far as,
no,
I don't have this,
But
not that program.
not that program,
There could be others.
but that could be where you use a different program to bring it up to have the person that comes in.
because I was gonna say, because there's not estates.
That is where you could almost do an investment co-op, because you have a return on that investment, but you have a guaranteed purchaser on the back end. And you can do it at a smaller dollar amount. I mean, $40,000 can bring it up.
Oh, it does, and it's,
Oddly enough, this actually underscores the fundamental problem a lot. I'll admit it, we've been dreaming about billion-dollar ideas.
Yep.
And in the long run, we might have a $500,000 budget to work with to begin with if we're lucky.
Exactly.
Part of the problem here is the actual influx of cash. We've got Trust Montana that could reduce that initial cost. We've got the idea of investment co-ops that can reduce that investment cost. But you brought up a problem that is driving us all nuts, and that's that your seller thinks the property is worth more than
Oh,
FHA thinks
100%.
it does, and they're not willing to back away from it.
no. If you get the estates that, and I get, everybody
Of course,
wants
yeah.
to get something when their parents pass on. Like,
They don't want something, they want
they
everything.
want it, like, but they're not, because there's people that are qualified through FHA, which is a great program, which helps these first-time home buyers, which are your teachers, your blue-collar workers, that are trying to make it and not pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in 10 years in rent. But if there's funds that could be used to get these homes up to a qualifiable FHA approval,
Rehabilitation funds.
that would be,
So that's
That's
what
a good way to say
Harville
it.
created their investment co-op was specifically for that.
because there's so
That's
many.
what Arlington did. They created their investment co-op to start rehabilitating.
To a point where it can
And
actually be
yeah.
funded to a traditional.
They didn't necessarily focus on a loan program as much as just they went through their housing stock and realized we have a lot that is not up to par.
You can't, like, you go into some of them, and like, it's tough, because it is older people that can't keep up, but they don't want to lose their independence of being in, and then kids don't get involved, and it's just downward, and then it's, what do we do with this, because I don't want it to be my problem, and I think it's worth
Right.
buku dollars, when,
And worse than that, this city is becoming, in my opinion, a poster child of a fundamental problem through the US, especially rural towns, where the value, because the houses are degrading, all of the value is shifting to the property, which means that if somebody wants to come in, knock down the building, build a new one, that now substantially
Oh, yeah.
increases the perceived value of the
Yeah.
property, which just makes everything tons worse, and now you're being owned by wealthy people in the town instead of the people you grew up with. Figuring out a way, I mean, let's think about your most radical solution. You change your zoning laws so that they're not all single-family homes, but allow for everything up to 30-story apartment buildings, and you rely on a planning group that is trying to make some common sense about where all this is going to get placed. So the city's skyline comes out like a traditional arc. That's one way to solve it, which is basically dividing the burden of the value amongst the occupants on that property. That's a harsh solution that is basically a one-way street that can destroy a city just as easily as anything else.
So